Today, we're now going to discuss the second to the last topic for the dynamics of rigid body, work and energy for rigid body planar motion. The learning objectives are to visit the principle of work and energy and the conservation of energy, demonstrate how to apply and solve rigid body planar kinetic problems involving force, velocity, and displacement. For rigid body planar kinetics, the principle of work and energy and conservation of energy we learn from particle kinetics will be applied. And as we learned in particle kinetics, the principle of work energy states that total external work done to the system equals to the change of kinetic energy of the system. When there are only conservative forces doing work, then we can derive the conservation of energy, which states that the total energy, which includes kinetic energy and potential energy of the system, stays constant. The potential energy commonly includes the gravitational potential energy as well as the elastic potential energy. So these two equations will also be applied to the system of bodies as well. So we will now revisit some of the key concepts defined from the rigid body kinetics. If the rigid body is subjected to a force and during motion, the point of application follows a path, then during this procedure, the work done by this force is defined as the integration of the dot product of the force vector and the differential position vector. And remember that this force is a variable that would change in both magnitude and direction. And since we know that the dot product of two vectors is scalar, therefore we can write the scalar form, which is the integration of the magnitude of force cosine theta multiplied by ds, wherein theta is the angle made by the line of action of the force and the tangential line along the path, integrated from initial s sub 1 to the final point s sub 2. And we can say that this is the same as what we've learned from the particle kinetics. However, in our particle kinetics, we only discuss the work of the forces and not the work of a couple moment. For a work of a couple moment, if the rigid body is subjected to the couple moment, represented by counterclockwise m, and it rotates within the plane with an angle theta, then the work done by this couple moment is defined as the integration of the dot product of moment vector multiplied by rate of change d theta, wherein d theta is the differential angular position vector. But for planar motion, remember the moment vector and the angular position vector are both perpendicular to the plane. Therefore, they are either of the same direction or opposite direction. Therefore, this vector equation can be simplified as the scalar equation of integral of moment multiplied by d theta from theta sub 1 to theta sub 2. And the work done by this moment is positive when the two vectors are the same direction, and the work done in this moment is negative when they are opposite direction. A special case will happen when the moment has a constant magnitude. Then its work is simply m times the difference between the initial angular position and the final angular position of the rigid body. Now, let's take a look at the kinetic energy of the rigid body. For a rigid body undergoing planar motion, from what we've learned in the rigid body kinematics, that it will have an angular velocity and every point of this rigid body will have different linear velocity. But we can always find the linear velocity of its gravitational center point G. Therefore, the kinetic energy of this rigid body will be defined as 1/2 mv sub g squared plus 1/2 I sub g multiplied by omega squared. I sub g is the mass moment of inertia of the rigid body with respect to an axis that passes through point G, and it is perpendicular to the plane, and omega is the angular velocity. As you can see, the equation clearly captures the contribution, both translation and rotation. So this general equation applies to all three cases of planar motion. But if we have translation, that means that the angular velocity omega is 0. Therefore, the kinetic energy of the rigid body simply equals to 1/2 mv sub g squared. And as you can see, this is the same as the kinetic energy for a particle. For a rotation about a fixed axis, the general equation also applies, but we can also rewrite the equation to T is equals to 1/2 I sub O, which is the center of rotation, or point O, multiplied by omega squared. And I sub O is known as the mass moment of inertia with respect to point O, or the center of rotation, and can be determined through parallel axis theorem or the transfer of mass moment of inertia I sub G from the gravitational center. And lastly, for the general plane motion, once again, the general equation still applies, but if we can locate the instantaneous center of zero velocity. Then the kinetic energy can also be determined through 1/2 I sub IC multiplied by omega squared. Once again, I sub IC is the mass moment of inertia about the instantaneous center of zero velocity. For the rigid body kinetics, the gravitational potential energy is defined the same way as in particle kinetics, and in the elastic potential energy will also be defined the same way in the particle kinetics. So once again, elastic potential energy is always non-negative. So let's have this example. We have two identical uniform rods and two identical uniform discs pinned together as shown. If the system starts from rest, when angle theta is equals to 60 degrees and the disc roll without slipping, determine the angular velocities of the rods and the disc when angle theta is 30 degrees. And initially, the spring with negligible mass and stiffness of K is equals to 100 Newton per meter is unstretched. So to solve the problem, since the disc rolls without slipping, this indicates that the static frictional force between the disc and the ground is doing no work during this process. And since we also know that the normal force exerted by the ground does no work, therefore, during motion for the system, we only have conservative force during work, which includes the gravitational forces as well as the spring force. Therefore, we can apply the conservation of energy to this system. So let's look at the four terms individually. First, we have the total kinetic energy of the system at the initial state, state 1. But since the system was released from rest, it will have a value of 0. Then let's look at the total potential energy at the initial state, state 1. So if we draw a line passing through the centers of the two discs as our datum, and you can see that the two discs has a center of gravity along the datum, therefore the gravitational potential energy is also 0. And the gravitational forces of the two rods with their gravitational center located at 0.5 multiplied by sine 60 degrees using the angle theta as 60 degrees above the datum, and also the initial spring is unstretched, therefore the elastic potential energy of the spring is 0 as well. So to calculate for the summation of V sub 1, summation of V sub G plus summation of V sub E, and since center of gravity of the circular disc passes through the datum, so therefore we will only calculate for the two rods. So we will have two rods, which is V sub G at state 1 of rod plus the elastic potential energy due to spring. So that would be twice rods. We will use weight multiplied by z-axis. So we will have mass of rod is 40 kilogram multiplied by 9.81 gravitational acceleration and multiplied by the distance from the datum as 0.5 sine 60 degrees plus. So the elastic potential is still the unstretched since it is at rest. So therefore 0 elastic potential energy. So we will have the value of 340 joules. We can now draw the final state of the system. When the system is already from 60 degrees, it now have an angle of 30 degrees. And to determine the final potential energy of the system, which includes the gravitational potential energy of the two rods only, as well as the elastic potential energy, since the spring is now stretched from 0.5, it's now stretched to 0.866. So you can calculate this through trigonometry. So 0.5 is calculated since all the angles are 60 degrees. So this is also 60 degrees and the total is also 60 degrees. Therefore, it will have a value here as 0.5 similar to this. So to solve for 0.866, we will apply the cosine law. We're in to find for BD squared, that would be AB squared plus AD squared minus 2AB multiplied by AD cosine, let's say this is alpha. So we will have BD squared. So alpha will be, if this is 30, this will also be 30 degrees. So this will have an alpha of 120. So we will have 0.5 since these are both 0.5. This is also 0.5 squared plus 0.5 squared minus 2 times 0.5 times 0.5 cosine 120. BD squared will be equal to 3/4. So applying square root, the length of the spring for BD will be equivalent to 0.866. So we can now solve for the summation of B sub 2. So summation of B sub 2, So similarly, that would be 2 gravitational potential energy of the rod at state 2 plus elastic potential energy at state 2. So that would be twice the mass of the rod, which is 40 kilogram, times the gravitational acceleration multiplied by, so this will now be the height, which is 0.5 sine 30 degrees plus. So for the elastic potential energy, so that would be 1 half Ks squared. So we will have 1 half multiplied by 100. So take note, 100 is our spring constant or the stiffness, K 100 Newton per meter multiplied by S squared. And S squared is displacement. So from the stretch minus the unstretched, so 0.866 minus 0.5 squared. We will be able to get 202.898, or you can say 203 joules. So for T sub 2, the summation of T sub 2 will be equal to twice the kinetic of the rod at state 2 plus twice the kinetic of the disc at state 2. And don't forget that we only have one equation, which is the conservation of energy. Therefore, we can only solve one unknown from the equation. So our goal is to rewrite this equation into an expression with only one unknown. Because of the symmetry, we can only focus on the left side of this system, which includes one rod and one disc, both of which are undergoing general plane motion at the final state of angle theta equals to 30 degrees. So we can focus on the hub. So for the rod, it has an angular velocity of omega rad, wherein it has a clockwise direction as our assumption. And we can now draw the linear velocity of its gravitational center at point B. However, direction of this velocity of the rod at the gravitational center, which is velocity of B, is still unknown. And for the disk, we learned that the linear velocity at the gravitational center of the disk, which is at point C, is to the left, since the motion of the disk is to the left. So we now have two linear velocity and two angular velocity, of which we need to determine the final kinetic energy of the system. So we need to explore the relation between these parameters. So first, let's focus on the disk. We know that the disk doesn't slip. So from the rigid body kinematics that we learned, we know that this point of contact will be known as the instantaneous center of the zero velocity. And this will be the radius of the disk from the center of gravity point C to the instantaneous center IC, which is 0.2. And we learned from linear velocity of any point of the rigid body that it can be determined as omega multiplied by the radius of point P with respect to IC. So therefore, we can solve for V sub C. V sub C, or linear velocity at point C, is simply the velocity at the center of gravity G of the disk will be equal to omega multiplied by R sub C over IC. And substituting the value, we will have R as 0.2. So we will have 0.2 omega, wherein this omega is the angular velocity of the disk. And we also notice that point C also belongs to the rigid body ABC, which is the rod. Therefore, we can find the instantaneous center of zero velocity of rod ABC when we can relate the linear velocity of V sub C to the angular velocity omega of the rod. From the symmetry based on observation, we know that the linear velocity of A is vertically downwards, since during the motion, point A moves downward. Therefore, we can draw the two perpendicular line. Then we can determine the instantaneous center of zero velocity for the rod. This distance, the radius of point P with respect to IC of the rod from the geometry, can be determined as 0.5. So if this is 0.5, this will also be 0.5. This will also be 0.5. So D sub C will now be equal to omega of rod. That product, R sub C over IC of rod, which is equals to 0.5 for R sub C over IC of rod. So we will have 0.5 omega of rod. So therefore, from here, we can determine that omega of rod will be equal to 0.4 omega of disk. Since D sub G of disk is simply equal to B sub C, so that would be 0.2 omega of disk, which is equal to 0.5 omega of rod. So divide both sides by 0.5, so omega of rod will be equal to 0.4 omega of disk. Therefore, B sub B will be equal to omega of rod multiplied by R sub P over I sub C of rod, which will be 0.5 omega rod, which can also be equivalent to B sub C, which is 0.2 of omega disk. So now V sub B and V sub C and omega rad are now all given in expression of omega d. So from earlier, we all know that the kinetic energy at the state 2 will be equal to 1 half mv sub g squared plus 1 half I sub g omega squared for translation and rotation. So therefore, for rad, we will have this representation. Similarly, for this, we will have this representation. And don't forget that the summation of all the kinetic energy will be twice of the rad and twice of the dist. And how do we find the equivalent of dist? So that would be by finding first the mass moment of inertia from the discussion, where if we derive if it is a slender rad, we will use this equation, and for the dist, we will use this equation. So using this value to find for T sub 2 of this, that would be 1 half. The mass of this from the given is 10, and B sub C squared is 0.2 omega d squared plus 1 half the calculated I sub g 0.2 omega d squared. So they will have a variable of omega d squared. So simplifying, so we will have the representation of 0.3 for the list. So let's try for the equivalent of rad. So we will have, so for mass of rad, that would be 40. For V sub B of rad, so we will use the 0.5 omega rad and the squared, and the result of 3.33. So we will have 6.665 omega rad. So since omega rad is equivalent to 0.4 omega d, so we will have 6.665 multiplied by 0.4 omega d raised to squared. So therefore, we will get the value as 1.0664 omega d squared. So we will have twice the 1.0664 omega d squared plus twice the 0.3 omega d squared. We will be able to get the summation of kinetic energy as 2.7328 for our omega d squared. So we now have the representation. So if you recall, since from rest, kinetic energy is 0, the calculated 340 earlier and 203 joules earlier. So there's a discrepancy due to rounding of values, which is from our calculation, we only calculate 2.7328 omega d squared. So simplifying, we will be able to get that angular velocity of the disc will be equal to 7.07 rad per second. And we know that the equivalent of omega rad is 0.4 omega disc from earlier. So substituting the value of omega disc, so we will be able to get the value for rad as 2.83 rad per second. In applying the work and energy method in the rigid body planar motion, draw first the free body diagram, likewise the kinetic diagram for state 1, likewise for state 2, and identify if there is slipping. When there is slipping, therefore there's a possibility of impending motion, likewise frictional forces. So therefore, you need to identify if you will apply the conservation of energy or the principle of work and energy. So same procedure from kinetics of particles for work and energy method. However, it now focus on the rigid body instead of the particle. That ends our discussion for work and energy method. Thank you.